The Ballad of Black Rock. Elara Vance had never met Silas Blackwood, her estranged great-uncle, but the solicitor's letter had been unequivocal. Silas, a recluse for decades, had passed away, leaving Elara, his only living relative, the deed to his most peculiar possession, Black Rock Lighthouse. The accompanying photograph showed a gaunt, skeletal tower clinging to a jagged outcrop of land miles off the mainland coast, perpetually battered by the unforgiving grey sea. It was less an inheritance, more a sentence. She accepted, partly out of a morbid curiosity that had always gnawed at her, partly because her life as an archivist in a sterile city felt as isolated as Silas must have been. Perhaps, she'd thought, breathing sea air, sorting through his effects, would be a cleansing. The boatman who ferried her, a man whose face was as weathered as driftwood, offered no pleasantries. His silences were heavier than the salt-laden fog that clung to the water. As Black Rock loomed, a solitary sentinel against the bruised sky, Elara felt a prickle of unease. The lighthouse itself seemed to scowl, its cyclopean eye, the lantern room, dark and vacant. The island was barely large enough for the tower and a small, crumbling keeper's cottage. Gulls cried mournfully, their calls swallowed by the relentless gnawing of the waves. Inside, the lighthouse was a study in utilitarian decay. Dust lay thick as snowdrifts on sparse furniture. The air was cold, heavy with the scent of brine, damp stone, and something else, something metallic and old, like forgotten blood. In the main room of the cottage, stacked neatly on a heavy wooden desk, were Silas Blackwood's logbooks. Dozens of them, bound in worn leather, their pages brittle with age. Elara began reading, intending to catalogue them. The early entries were mundane, weather patterns, ship sightings, the tedious routine of lamp maintenance. Silas wrote with a clear, methodical hand. But as the years in the logbooks progressed, so did Silas's prose. A subtle shift occurred, like the tide turning imperceptibly. October 17th, 1978. Wind howls like a banshee tonight. Light is steady. The sea is restless. Feels like it's trying to tell me something. November 3rd, 1979. Saw a flicker on the horizon, not a ship. Just a presence. The lamp feels warm tonight, almost humming. I don't like it. Elara found herself leaning closer, the practical archivist slowly being drawn into Silas's growing unease. His handwriting became more frantic, his sentences shorter, punctuated by ellipses. February 12, 1981. The silence. It's not empty. It's listening. I hear it now, under the waves, under the wind. A song. They sing it. The Watchers. The Watchers. Elara traced the words with her finger. What rubbish was this? Isolation playing tricks on an old man's mind. She pushed the logbooks aside, resolving to focus on cataloguing them later. Days turned into a week. Elara explored the lighthouse, its spiral staircase groaning under her weight. The lantern room offered a panoramic view of the vast, indifferent ocean. She found nothing but salt-caked glass and rusted machinery. Yet, the feeling of being watched persisted. It wasn't the cold, clinical observation of an absent person. It was a deep, pervasive awareness, as if the very rock beneath her feet was sentient and disapproving. She started experiencing peculiar things. In her peripheral vision, shadows seemed to elongate, to twist into unnatural shapes before snapping back to normal when she turned her head. Sometimes, she'd catch fleeting reflections in the darkened windows that weren't her own, a taller, gaunter silhouette, or a mass of indistinct, shifting forms. And then, she heard it. A faint hum, so low it was almost subliminal, like the vibration of a distant engine or a trapped bee buzzing against glass. It seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. Was it the old machinery? The wind? Or was it Silas's song? It would surface during moments of deep quiet, only to vanish the instant she tried to pinpoint its source. She'd find herself straining her ears, a cold dread coiling in her stomach, feeling foolish and increasingly unnerved. One evening, poring over the logbooks again, she found a section where Silas had meticulously charted celestial cycles and tidal patterns, correlating them with periods of intense activity. He'd marked a specific date, 3 nights hence, with a furious X. He called it a convergence. April 10th, 1983. It comes tonight. The great convergence. The song is loud. The watchers gather. They are so many. I can feel their eyes. They want the light. They want to see. They want to see me. The entry ended abruptly, a splotch of ink obscuring the final words. Elara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the sea breeze. That convergence was tonight. The sky outside was already darkening, a bruised, ominous purple. Driven by an instinct she couldn't explain, Elara began a more thorough search of the cottage, tapping walls, pulling at loose floorboards. In the small, cramped bedroom Silas had used, tucked away in the darkest corner, she found it, a section of the stone wall that felt hollow. Prying at it with a rusted crowbar she'd found, a stone panel scraped open, revealing a dark recess. Inside was not what she expected. No treasure, no hidden diary. Instead, there lay a single, perfectly smooth, black stone, roughly the size of a human heart. It pulsed with a faint, internal luminescence, like captured starlight. And from it, the hum, Silas's song, arose, now undeniably audible, a complex, multi-layered melody woven from clicks, whistles, and resonant drones. It didn't just vibrate in the air, it vibrated within her, a phantom symphony playing directly on her nerves. Suddenly, the wind outside shrieked, rising to a furious howl. The sea crashed against the island with violent force, the spray reaching the very windows of the cottage. The lighthouse lamp, dormant since her arrival, flickered to life with a blinding, erratic pulse, casting wild, dancing shadows across the room. The beam swept across the churning water, illuminating nothing but foam and fury. The song intensified, a deafening crescendo. It was no longer just sound, it was pressure, a physical force pushing against her mind. Elara felt her thoughts fragmenting. The stone in her hand grew cold, then impossibly hot. She looked at the reflection in the dark recess of the wall. It wasn't her own face staring back. It was a composite, a flickering montage of eyes, too many eyes, all looking out from the darkness, from the sea, from the churning light. The Watchers. A voice, ancient and vast as the ocean, whispered directly into her mind, not with words but with pure sensation, "You are the keeper now. You tend the light. You show them the way." Elara staggered back, dropping the stone. It landed on the stone floor with a soft, wet thud, as if striking flesh. The light from the lighthouse pulsed violently, bathing the room in stroking, terrifying hues. Through the storm-lashed windows, she saw the sea begin to churn unnaturally, not just with waves, but with dark, amorphous shapes rising from the depths, coalescing into a horrifying, impossibly large entity that seemed to absorb the light. She stumbled towards the desk, her hands shaking, desperate for Silas's final words. The last logbook lay open. The final entry, dated the same night as the X, was a frantic, near-illegible scrawl. "They sing louder than the storm. The light, it draws them. It calls them. The rock, it's a door. A door for us to see them. And for them to see. Oh, God, it sees me. It sees me. It sees." The entry cut off mid-sentence, trailing into a wild, ink-stained smear. Elara looked up, her own voice caught in her throat. The pulsing light of the lighthouse painted the scene in stark, terrifying flashes. The relentless hum was now a deafening roar, a cosmic song of creation and destruction. She felt a profound understanding bloom within her, a terrifying clarity that Silas had achieved only in his final moments. The lighthouse wasn't a beacon for ships, it was a signal, a lure, a guide for things that existed in the silent, crushing depths between worlds. And she, Elara Vance, archivist and inheritor, was now its keeper. The sea outside roared, 1,000 eyes seemed to watch from the churning abyss, and the light of black rock pulsed on, a lonely, terrible beacon in the gathering dark. The song continued, and Elara began to hum along.